Thanks, Deborah. At the moment, we're only going to deal with the one that's come to us to talk about, and the main problem is the legislation around community solar generation and restricting the ability for lots of that to happen. So that's why these groups have got together, and I think at the moment we're not looking to have a wider conversation than just this one project, although that may flow on subsequently. Elizabeth?
Oh, yeah, I was just trying to garner a bit more information around what they presented this morning. So is this a community-driven, or was it a Ryan initiative to work with the community on this? So I was just trying to work where it actually came from. And you're talking about the legislation that's restricting them. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's not really much legislation to restrict any individual from putting solar panels in a battery on their own property. So just wondering how restricted they actually are as a community, if this is a community-led thing, to not create that initiative themselves. And they talk about funding. I mean, that's all quite relative. Most people fund their own solar.
Yeah, so that is something that the report and the feedback will entail. There's nothing stopping any individual doing it at the moment, but if they're talking about a community supply, I've got solar panels on my roof and I'm not allowed to supply my neighbour with power. Yeah. So that's part of the problem with community supplies is the legislation piece, and that's what this group will look to overcome, and that's why it's good that Orion is involved with it. And it started at the community level, was my understanding, about trying to think about the resilience of the area and all the reasons they brought to us this morning, thinking about the sustainability of electricity within the basin. Sophie?
Yeah, going on from that, so basically the program that they're in is like a 12-week activator that there are several groups taking part. This is the only one in Selwyn, most are in Christchurch. I think there's like 2 in Waimakariri. And it's mostly around things like, as Sam said, the community battery aspect, the sharing of the electricity, rather than trying to do all the costs individually, trying to share it and making it more resilient because of that. And that's a really cool idea, and it'll probably end up involving, them creating some kind of trust, which if we wanted to be part of, we'd have to join into. But I see it from our point of view, I see it more of like an operational thing. Like, we've got assets there that use electricity. Yep. We're not looking at trying to fund the entire project or anything like that. They're quite clear about the fact that they're looking at it as homeowners and, as Grant's pointed out, mostly business owners or part-time residents. But if it's something that we can get involved in as far as the hall and the water assets is concerned, then I think that's worth investigating. But yeah, and then if it ever rolled out anywhere else, well, that's great. But this is a community thing, and I don't see us needing to do much more than the operational end to reduce our own energy costs.
Cool. Thank you, Sophie. Grant?
I just wanted some real clarity. You made some comments at the start about Jens Christensen's submission. I think indirectly probably West Rolleston School's submission as well, is that we have got a hang of a lot of potential new development in that particular area after fast track, and also with the industrial approval on the other side of the railway line. And I do tend to agree with Jens that maybe it is an opportunity to have a review, or at least assure us that a review is not required, because the fundamentals of the design have been presupposed on the development we had thought was going to go ahead. There's a significant increase in development in that space, which will probably drive more. And it may not be the outcome that's been drawn here, but there seems like there's other opportunities to solve the problem. And what concerns me particularly is that, again, thinking about DCs, is that we may not use the opportunity to acquire the appropriate amount of funding from the fast track development if we proceed to do things on our own back, and have agreed to do that before this development gets approved, because the developer could quite rightly say, oh, you've already agreed to do that, I don't need to fund that at all. So there's a piece of work around thinking around development and strategy in this space that, I'm not sure that just handing it over to NZTA and not having our team really engaged on it's going to be the answer. If that's what I was hearing, maybe I wasn't hearing it correctly.
Sure.
Yeah, there's one element of passing the information over, but I've actually asked Tim Mason and his team to pick up the Jen's and Rob's and ask the team to have a look and give some thoughts and feedback as to what is their opportunity. And
Sharon and I have got a meeting with James Cagle in a couple of weeks' time, so that's where we can talk with them about it, and it's really about understanding what's their part of the process. There's, like you say, there's other bits that will be in Selwyn space, and that's where the DCs for us could be very important.
Just on the energy strategy part, we've finished that part of it. I just wonder, before we make any decisions around Castle Hill, whether we're quite clear in our own mind what our energy strategy is, because, you know, in some shire councils in Australia, you can put solar panels on your roof and have it put on your rates and all this sort of stuff, you know, and without us having a strategy where we're delivering and sort of taking a piecemeal approach, I think it could be, we might box ourselves into a corner.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. So at a regional level, I'm chair of the Regional Economic Development Group, and one of the priority pieces of work that the Canterbury Mayoral Forum have identified is energy across Canterbury. And at the moment we are undertaking an energy inventory. And when I talk about energy, I'm talking the energy in its broadest form. We have some support from the regional public service, and that inventory should be completed by March next year, and then we will give some feedback as to then what the opportunities are, so we can take a whole of Canterbury approach to energy. And of course that feedback will come back into each individual council as well. So we're taking a whole of Canterbury view around energy.
Thanks, Sharon. Deborah.
Sorry, I'm going to go back to Rolleston West School and the feedback from the Rolleston Residents Association. I noted that the
Sorry, it wasn't the Rolleston Residents Association. He made it very clear it was just his own.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the document that I've got in front of me. 'Cause that's 2022.
Yep.
And I just want to follow up from where Grant is with regards to our DCs. We can only collect DCs if we have the project earmarked within our long-term plan. And a real danger here is if we start withdrawing projects and putting new projects in, we could be challenged that basically we could be left holding the baby if we start changing plans that are in our long-term plan that we actually have provided some subsidiary funding to. If we start changing the plans with regards to the collection of those DCs need to be locked in with real certainty with the development, and we're already having a time lag. If we actually don't view them annually, we actually choose to view them every 3 years or whenever. I think we have a policy of actually viewing them annually with what we've just passed, but it's very, very important that we're collecting them for the purpose that we said we were, and the maps and inclusions and plans in our long-term plan. And any departure could actually lead to difficulties in collecting the appropriate amount of DCs. And I just want to highlight that.
Cool. Thanks, Deborah. And I think the way that Sharon's articulated it is that will be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Cool. And Rob Hunt, West Rolleston Primary School piece, that was quite roading specific, which will be caught up in the overall result that Sharon's just talked about, but also noting that the Minister is coming down to understand space requirements for schools, and safety of kids will be a part of that conversation, particularly with the Rolleston College having 2 campuses and thinking about how that functions and works. So is everyone happy that those are the outcomes from the 4 public forums this morning? Great. That brings us to the end of today's oh, no, it doesn't quite to the end. It just brings us to the Memorandum of Understanding, which we will adjourn the meeting until we have the others in the room. Actually, let's reapprove it without them in the room, and then we don't feel like...
Yeah.
Sure. So we have the Memorandum of Understanding. When they come, it would be nice to have just the signing ceremony with them rather than having to continue with the formal part of the meeting. So if there's a mover and seconder for the signing, thank you, Shane. Thank you, Malcolm. Any discussion on the MOU? Sharon, do you want to say anything up front?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Look, I'm really excited about this. And again, it fits into some of the strategic partnerships that we are forming with key businesses. It comes on the back of the MOU we signed with Lincoln University. We see some great opportunities with regards to KiwiRail and with regards to their future planning, also economic opportunities. This very much fits in with our economic development strategy. Our teams already have relationships in the Indigenous biodiversity space as well. So I see this as a win-win, and there's lots of mutual benefits for our community and for the Selwyn district, and I'm quite excited to be able to bring this forward.
Thank you, Sharon. Right.
Just a moment of clarity. It says in there that KiwiRail will become logistics and tourism partner. We haven't made any exclusive arrangements regarding logistics with them. They're not expecting to roll up and take over our logistics and parcel delivery all of a sudden.
No, there is some background work going on with regards to KiwiRail's plans for the future that may involve Rolleston. That will be an enhancement to the current logistics facilities here.
Just one of the things it talks about is a steering group. Is that anticipated at a governance level or senior leadership level, or how do we get involved with that?
In terms of the steering group, it'll be very similar to Lincoln University. It is more at an operational executive level, but it will feed into the strategic portfolio around economic development and investment and disinvestment. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. Kai aku rika. He tuki ki te raki, he ko ki te whenua, he pitu mata, he pitu mata ki aku rika. Covered in the sky, grounded in the earth, the potential is in our hands. We've known the potential has been there for a long time. So thank you for delivering an MOU that fits within the economic strategy for the generations to come. Yeah, really excited. Really excited to see where this goes. So kia ora. Thank you.
Any further comments or discussions on this? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Great. That brings us all but to the end of the meeting. And once KiwiRail is here, we will have the signing, close the meeting, and have lunch with them.